Hey guys, this is Whitney, and welcome back to another episode of Spastic Chatter. Spastic Chatter is a platform meant to feature those in the cerebral palsy community, and I get together weekly with individuals with CP, like myself, to have a kind of uncensored chat, if you will, about what it's like living with this type of disability. And for this week's episode, I have Carlos, and I actually found him I found one of his coworkers on social media. They came across my post, and they said that Carlos would be the perfect guest for this episode, and I tend to agree. So we're gonna learn more about Carlos and what he does for the organization CP Alberta. He's from Canada, so another Canadian guest. Spastic Chatter is going international, guys. So I'll let Carlos introduce himself before we get to talking.
Absolutely.
Carlos, you want to take it away?
Thank you. My name is Carlos. Thank you, Whitney, for having me on your podcast today. It's been a pleasure hearing from you and arranging our meeting for today. I was actually not born in Canada. I was actually born in Mexico. I came to Canada 16 years ago to come for university. Originally, I was actually going to come to learn English because in Mexico, the second strongest language that we needed to learn, it's English. So I wanted to improve my English a little bit. So I came to Canada pretty much to do that. And then once I was in Canada here in the province of Alberta, the city of Edmonton, I decided to pretty much stay here in Canada for the rest of my university degree, and I applied to universities. I got in. So I went to university for pretty much 5 years, graduated, and started working for Cerebral Palsy Alberta, which is where you, Whitney, were able to locate my information. So that's pretty much my first introduction.
So do you want to tell us kind of what CP Alberta is all about?
Yes, absolutely. CP Alberta is a non-for-profit organization that helps individuals with cerebral palsy and other disabilities enrich their lives, basically to the fullness potential. So what we have several the services. We have what's called the Cerebral Palsy is actually affiliated to United Cerebral Palsy, and we have a Cerebral Palsy Canada network where we help persons with all over Canada, like with Montreal, Ontario, there with researchers and everything like that. There's different staff that is located to help in that particular sectors of the organization. As for myself, I work in the operations section of the organization, and I work in the program section of the organization. So I have two different hats in my department that I help support. So the Cerebral Palsy Alberta doesn't only help individuals with cerebral palsy. We tend to help individuals with all disabilities, with all disability spectrums. So we have individuals with autism, we have individuals with multiple different disabilities as well, but we also help, of course, persons with cerebral palsy as well, right? So for example, on my section that I help with programs, I'm actually the instructor of a computer program, because we found out this program has been running for about 5 years, and we found out that there was a lot of individuals that needed to learn computer techniques and computer skills. So we decided to run it. I've been running it for myself for about 3.5 years now. I wasn't the person who started the program. Somebody else started, but we have programs such as computers. Then we have yoga classes as well. We have an art program. We have music programs. We have a swimming program before this situation with COVID came into this world. So we are very well equipped to support our clients that way, and we also have, like I said, our operation department, which is our social enterprise. We are partnered up with Bali Village here in Bali Village is worldwide, or sorry, started in the U.S., but it also came into Canada. It was in Canada here with us, and they partnered up with us since 1995. And we're doing the social enterprises is our operational side, which is our clothing program, which we basically donate. We contact donors to donate their secondhand clothing, and they will pretty much donate their secondhand clothing or household items, and then we pretty much give them, sell them to Bali Village, and Bali Village gives us a perfectly good profit that we put towards our programs and services, so our programs can keep continuing growing. Right? We are a non-for-profit organization. It's not a governmental organization, so we write grants as well. We ask for support in the community, like with donations, with funding, and all the different aspects. On our social awareness aspects, there's our we do public speaking. Like I do public speaking myself as well.
And I saw that your title is like a community educator. So you go out in the community and like give presentations, or like what do you do?
We did before COVID. We did a lot of presentations in schools. So we my task was mainly get to contact schools and offer a free presentation around schools communities. So the presentations was focused on elementary schools, on even kindergarten, like from kindergarten to grade 12, and then from university levels. But we also focus on non-for-profits or companies that would like to have us present, do a presentation in those in their business as well, right? So, but mainly what I've been doing is, I've been doing it for the past 4.5 years. We've been doing schools, universities mostly, but we also focus on going around businesses and present and do cerebral palsy awareness. So we go out and we talk about cerebral palsy. And the greatest part of it is that I do it myself in Edmonton and the surrounding areas in Edmonton, and they get to see me as an individual who has cerebral palsy, and I have some activities like I walk with some crutches. You're not able to see them right now because I'm sitting down, but I walk with some crutches, and I put the students to walk with my crutches for about about 5 minutes or even less, to walk around the chairs and see. Kind of, we put obstacles around the classroom and stuff so people can see how have a little bit of a taste of how is it to walk with crutches around, right? So
That's cool.
yeah.
And so I like how you're like simulating, how you do like a simulation kind of. I haven't really came across anyone that's like willing to like give away, to, like let the other people use their crutches, like I don't know. That's really cool. And I like how y'all do how you were saying, like, you do the secondhand clothing thing. Like you have, it sounds like CP Alberta does like independent living skills, kind of like in the U.S. we have centers for independent living. It kind of sounds like a one side of CP Alberta is kind of like geared towards that, but then there's this whole other side about the secondhand clothing that I I didn't know about that. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's the other side of our organization that help us support and bring the part of the 45%, 45% of the revenues will go from the operational side, but there's a lot of other side, which was we do a lot of government relationships and stuff like that. Talk with government officials to make sure that everything is in place. So it's a big organization.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We've been around for about since 1976 up till now. We've been running as an organization. So
That's
it's
awesome. So I'm curious about more about your story now. So you came from Mexico to Canada.
mhm.
How is that transition like? Like was it like a was it like different coming from Mexico? Like what were but the reason you went to Canada, was it for like resources or like
Very good question. If I can tell you a little bit about my story, when I was young, I was probably about um, I was probably about 8 years old. I started to realize that I wanted to have a better life. I wanted to have an independent life. Just for people, for your listener who might not be familiar with Mexico, Mexico is a beautiful country that cares a lot for people, and we love a lot to meet new people, and we're always welcoming people all the time. But when it comes to persons with disabilities, families used to. I'm not gonna say all the families because it's not like that. But some of the families, they're not really. I would say that they feel kind of shame, if you want to say it that way, of having a person with a disability at home. So they usually don't encourage them to go out, or they hide them, or they put them on. At the time that I was born in 1984. Even before my time when I was born, they put children and kids and even adults on institutions, on hospitals, or on institutions, and they put them away from their families. So my family, since I was born, they told me that I can do everything I put my mind to it, right? So, and when I was 8 years old, I kept remembering my mom saying, you can do anything you put your mind to it, you can do." So, my goal was, I said, the majority of persons with disabilities in Mexico, they don't live without their parents. They live either with their parents, or they live with their grandparents, or the brothers and sisters, or whoever they can take care of them too. Which I'm not saying is wrong at all. I think is really cool. But
yeah.
at the same time, I I I wanted to challenge myself that I can live alone, that I can live in a different country and I can live alone. And on top of that, I realized when I was 8 years old, up to like when I was 10 years old, that I didn't have the necessary resources, not from my family. From my family was giving me all the resources properly and everything, but I'm talking about all the tools to be able to move around, to be able to be independent, to be able to to be myself. Like there was a lot of in Canada and the US, there's a lot of places that they have ramps. They have buttons to open the doors
Mhm.
on the malls, on the stores. And my city, which is in Monterrey, Mexico, it didn't have that. It didn't have that until the late 90s, in the late 90s, probably 1995 and 1996, when people are starting to get a little more conscious and more aware of the individuals who have cerebral palsy or any other disabilities, right? Who have difficulty moving around without a tool, a walker, or wheelchair, or whichever way they decide to move, right? So at the age of 8 years old, I decided to start thinking, how can I live by myself? And when I was in high school, when I was finishing high school, grade 12, I finished grade 12 in Mexico. Even before grade 12, around grade 11, I started to ask my mom that I wanted to live outside in a different country. Um, as a parent, they are scared. They were scared at first. They were like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can do it." Uh, Not that they were doubting about my capacities. They knew about my capacities because, as I mentioned earlier to you, my mom always said that whatever I put my mind to it, I can do it, right? So I convinced them many, many times, or talked to them many, many times about giving me the opportunity to go to to go somewhere. And so what happens is my sister used to be the flying bird, the person who I call her the flying bird because she used to travel. Well, she still does it, but she used to go everywhere, traveling everywhere, and see places and she was an exchange student in Australia her last year of university, or sorry of yeah, it was her last year of university. She was an exchange student for high school too, and but she came to Canada first. When she came to Canada, she spoke highly about the province of Alberta, which is where we're living, where I'm living right now. And when she came back, I told my mom, "Can I give it a try? Can can I can I do the same thing? Can I go by myself and give it a try?" So after having a couple of conversations with my parents, uh, we decided to try it for 6 months first, and then we came to Canada. We decided to try it, and I started to notice that I was going to have a better life here than in back at home, and I decided to apply for um, a university opportunity, a university college at the time, and I applied for it. I got in, and I decided to talk to my parents again. I said, "Can I do my university in Canada instead of in Mexico?" And they say, "Yeah, go ahead." We talked about it, and it it finally came to the decision that I was gonna do my studies in Canada, and after that, I decided to stay in Canada because I thought it was gonna be where I develop my life better, faster.
Like you have a pretty awesome story because I like how you said that you wanted to challenge yourself. And to be honest, I don't know many people they would move countries by themselves, like let alone like able like disability or not. Like I don't know many people like that that would that would do that. And then you have a disability on top of it. So like when you got I have another question for you. When you got to the States and you had like you had to did you have to navigate all of like say you had an issue with like accessibility or something like that? Did you have to navigate that by yourself, or did you have a support system within like your sister or like because your family because your parents are in Mexico?
They are in Mexico. Sorry to ask you a question back, but do you want to know about if I have a support system in Mexico or if I had a support system in Canada?
In Canada, like to
In Canada.
help you like navigate your issues because I imagine that it was difficult because you're young, you're going into college. Like if you ran into an issue like associated with your disability, like did you have that support system, or did you have to learn to advocate for yourself?
You know, I was pretty lucky when I came to Canada because I came to Canada very young. I'm actually 36 years old right now, and I came to Canada when I was 19 years old. So pretty much I was still in my teens when I came to Canada, almost on my adulthood. But I came in when I was 19, and I came with a host family that it was the first time that they encountered somebody with a disability. So when I first talked to them, they're like, "Well, it's the first time we encounter somebody that is living with us who has some sort of a physical challenge in their life all over their life 24 hours. And the interesting part of it was that I don't know about where you live right now, but in the house that I was living, there was it was a third floor house. So it was a basement, a main floor, and a second floor, and they all have stairs, right? So I was like, I needed to advocate for myself of how to move around. But thankfully, my host family was so open-minded to help me out, and I actually love them up till this day. I'm still in contact with them till this day because they're a family that I love to pieces, because they open their mind to be able to reach their hands and help me out and say, okay, what do you need? Do you need a railing on our house? Sure. Okay, there's a railing. Is this railing okay? I'm like, sure, there's a railing that is okay. But they were willing. I don't think they put another railing because I told them that they didn't need to, but they were actually willing to do whatever I needed to do to be able to go down in the basement or upstairs in the second floor, or even like if I needed help in the main floor as well. So I didn't really have a support system when I came to Canada at first. I had to build it. I had to actually build that support system and advocate for myself to be able to grow and grow and grow. But my sister actually gave me the best advice ever. She said to me, well, my sister and my parents, but the one that I remember the most was from my sister, because she was the one that told me this in confidence. She said, in confidence, basically. And she said, if you want to open yourself up to be able to build a support system faster, you need to be yourself. You need to be open. You don't need to be ashamed of your disability. You just need to be who you are, right? And when she said that to me, and my mom reiterated that to me, she told me that before, but when she said that to me, it kind of opened up my world and saying, okay, when I put the first foot in Canada, I need to basically be myself and learn to advocate for myself, to support myself. But all that, the advocate comes from my parents, because back at home I had a huge support system from my parents and my brother and my sister too, right? So I learned how to develop that support system on my own through them
That's
as well.
that's very cool. That's very cool. So, at the end of each episode, I ask each of my guests if they have any advice for others, and I think you would have a great advice for somebody like for advocacy wise. How important is it to advocate for yourself, and what are some steps? What is some advice for others that you would give for like advocating for their rights and like making sure they need what they get? Like they get what
Oh, sorry, no, continue. You're
I go ahead.
the best advice that I can give to somebody is, the majority of people sometimes, or some people sometimes, they feel that it's hard to talk about their disability. It's hard to even show with the disability, because they might feel not ashamed, but they might feel like, okay, because some people don't feel ashamed, but they feel puzzled. They feel like if I if I advocate for my disability, what if people criticize me, or what if people don't like what I have to say? What if people don't don't accept anything that I have to say? And that happens to me even today. I've been advocating for my own disability. Well, I work for about I've been working for Cerebral Palsy for 10 years, which I've been advocating for about 10 years, and in schools for about 4 or 5 years. But for my own disability, I've been advocating for about, I'm 36, so I've been advocating for about 32.
Yeah.
And so what I would suggest is just be open, and don't be don't be hesitant to say what you have to say, because in your heart you always feel something. And if you feel in your heart that you need to say something, that you need to stand up for somebody, that you need to uh, even be a part of a movement if you want to be, because that's the way you want to make a change, then go and do it. Don't be afraid of saying, oh, I'm not able to walk faster than the average person. I'm not going to be able, how can I be able to speak faster than the average person? Just do it, because you have the capability to move yourself in so many ways, and you have to trust yourself that you can touch people in so many ways, shape or form. Everybody has their own story, and everybody has an amazing story to tell. And that's what I like to tell people. Advocacy is the story that you're telling, that you're going to tell people. To me, advocacy is, you have to create a story, and you have to use your story as a tool for other people to open their their ways.
That's an awesome way to put it. I've never even thought about that, but it's so true. It's like you're telling a story, and you have to be passionate about that story to get your message across.
Exactly.
So that's a very cool way to put it. So Carlos, is there anywhere people can like follow you on social media, or if they want to? Or
Yeah, I mean, you can. There is our, actually, they can go through my personal Facebook page, which is they can find me on Carlos Gonzales D is on my Facebook page. I don't necessarily have a Twitter account because I'm not really uh, Twitter um, savvy necessarily at this point. But my Facebook page is Carlos GZD, and then our our organization, which has a lot of great information. There's www.cpalberta.com, so www.cpalberta.com, and our social media, it's CP Alberta, and you can find it on Facebook. There's going to be, we also have a YouTube channel, which I actually get a chance to tell a story for kids. So if you have any of your listeners who have kids who want to listen to wonderful stories, I'm actually doing stories on our YouTube channel. There's great information there. But if they want to follow me personally, they can go on my Facebook page, and my Instagram is Carlos GZD. So Carlos GZD. That's my Instagram page too.
and I will link all that in the description. The CV Alberta, the website, and all your social media stuff. But
Yeah.
thank you, Carlos, for being on Spastic Chatter. I really enjoyed your conversation. And to close out, if you want to be on an episode of Spastic Chatter, there's always a link in the description. And check back next week for another episode of Spastic Chatter. Thanks. Bye.